Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going weekly video games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, back with another episode. This is episode number 406 for Sunday, the 5th of October, 2025. Here with me, as always, I have my stalwart partners in crime. First of all, Mr. DBQ Hams, how you doing, DBQ?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. We've got lots to talk about tonight.
And Towmaster 99, how you doing, Tow?
Doing well. Enjoying these hot summer nights, even though it's October 5th.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I was hoping we were going to get away with the fall heat wave, but that has not proven to be the case. Without much further ado, let's get to it. Starting off with segment one, our gamer experiences for the week. The only one who has a major title to report out on this evening is DBQ. So, DBQ, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big title. It feels like a big title for me. It is Marvel Cosmic Invasion. So this is the Tribute Games.emu two developers. These are the people that did Shredder's Revenge, TMNT, and there's a PC demo right now that's up for the next couple of weeks, and it has 9 of the 13 characters already announced. So they've over the past couple of weeks, they've been announcing a few other characters: Cosmic Ghost Rider and Black Panther, Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer. But the ones in the demo are Storm, Captain America, Venom, Nova, Marvel, She-Hulk, Wolverine, Rocket Raccoon, and Spider-Man. And it plays exactly like you would expect in terms of a really tight, the kind of combo-based, frenetic belt scroller. You know, if you've played Shredder's Revenge, if you've played some of, classic beat 'em ups over the years, it fits right in this. Tribute Games, they are people that spun out, or a studio. They used to be Ubisoft developers. They did the TMNT GBA game back on Game Boy Advance, which is a really tight brawler there, and have gone on to do things like Flint Hook and Panzer Paladin, in addition to Shredder's Revenge, and now Cosmic Invasion. .emu pulls in people from Streets of Rage 4, and another really good kind of pedigree of beat 'em ups here. The gameplay is it graphics wise, it's a little brighter, a little, I don't know, pixels feel a little tighter than in Shredder's Revenge. Shredder's Revenge had a little bit of a washed out look, a little bit. So this feels, and maybe it's just because I'm playing this on the Steam Deck OLED, that the colors really pop. The demo itself is only 2 levels, so some of those are significantly long levels. It takes about 20 minutes or so to play through, so I had a chance to play through with lots of different characters. Every character has a standard attack button. You've got a jump, you've got attack that you can do in the air. For some people, it's, for Venom and Spider-Man, you're swinging through the air. For Captain America, you're doing kind of the standard, flying kick. For heroes that can fly, like Nova or Storm, you can actually stay suspended up in the air. You have a range ability. For some characters, they're projectile. You have a limited number of shots out of that, and then it kind of recharges back up. You have a throw or some type of grab mechanic for most people. Rocket has, instead of doing a throw, he tosses out a grenade, and everybody has a special attack that takes a little bit of health away in kind of classic brawler style, but gets rid of not necessarily all the enemies on the screen, but gets rid of kind of an area effect around you. And so those attacks are very dependent on who your character is, right? If you're She-Hulk, you grow even larger as She-Hulk and do a giant smash down. If you're Venom, you kind of just lash out with your, with the alien symbiote all over. If you're Storm, you're raining lightning down. So there's a nice balance of attacks. It feels, there's a nice combo meter. It really is, it feels tight in terms of gameplay. There's on the back buttons, there's actually a kind of a dash backwards as well. So you'll be able to remap that, I'm sure. So it is, if you've played a brawler, a 2D brawler, you kind of know what you're getting into. You're going to knock over a few trash cans or break some boxes and maybe find a sandwich or a donut in it that's going to restore some health. One of the other hooks for it is that you choose two characters from the beginning, and so you can switch back and forth, almost like a Capcom Marvel fighting game where you can switch in and out like a tag fighter. And so here they each have, you don't have lives, you have a health meter, and you basically have 2 lives because you have 2 characters. And so in the demo, there's just an arcade mode. There's a campaign that's not in the demo. So it's similar to what Shredder's Revenge was as well, in terms of having both of those. But overall, this is a game I was excited for because I really enjoyed Shredder's Revenge, and playing the demo totally locked me in as this is a must purchase in terms of playing this fall. That it's 13 characters, potentially more coming. With Shredder's Revenge, they continue to add characters like for 2 years out over here. So there's definitely some runway here with different characters. It'd be fun to play co-op where you'd be able to kind of swap in a number of different characters. One of the things, because I was only playing single player, I don't know if there's any type of interplay with the characters in terms of attacks that or combos that you can do to kind of play off each other. So that's one thing I haven't seen or haven't read about in the demo.
So with having the 2 characters, can you call like the other character in as a support, kind of like you can in fighting games?
No, you basically just switch out.
Yeah, switch out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to kind of like do an attack, switch out, and keep that combo going with both of them. So it's because of some animation frames, you definitely can. I was able to do a special attack, switch out, combo it, and then switch back to the other character. So it's not like a complete support where it's coming in and dropping down some attacks and bouncing back out. It very much is kind of switching your playable character, but you can do that on the fly throughout the whole game.
Nice. And then as far as like, I guess the powers, is there any kind of like power ups? Can you upgrade stuff, or is it just like straight up like here's your powers, just go out and kill people?
I haven't seen like a skill tree. It's possible in the campaign there is. If I think about in Shredder's Revenge, you could do some stat boosts as you worked your way through the campaign. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if there's some of that in the campaign, but in arcade mode, it is what you get. You kind of, and that's potentially, maybe that's why you have all your moves from the beginning in arcade mode. It's hard to say there.
Okay, and DBQ, when does this game fully release?
Oh, let's double check that. It is...
And while you're checking that, just a shout out to Hero Down Under joining us in the chat. Thanks a lot for coming through, Hero.
I'm not exactly sure. I think it is
next year sometime, I thought.
Did it get pushed back to next year? At first I thought it was this fall, but
was it? Oh, for some reason I thought it was. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of that fighting game. That other.
Yeah,
that was
Marvel Funcom.
Yeah.
Yep. No, this is still dated for. On the Steam page, it just has a 2025 date. So I'm not seeing anything that gives a hard date yet. So I think yeah, go ahead.
That would be good, because I don't know right now that, like, if I had a choice for a game, provided that you thought you were ready to go, I might say go ahead and push that thing out in 2025, because 2026 looks not great, particularly if you're going to do a game like this, like in a year that Marvel Tokon launches as well on top of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this game comes, it drops in December type of thing. I haven't seen anything in terms of a physical edition yet. They did a physical edition for Shredder's Revenge. This is ripe for like a limited run type of physical edition, but I would anticipate that that's coming at a later date. That this, could easily get pushed out digitally before the end of the calendar year.
So DBQ, any like similarities to or specific things that this game is doing, like in the comic book superhero genre, that's like particularly gelling with you, or particularly like, making you want to stave off?
Definitely not staving off. I think it feels, each character's attacks feel very fluid and in line with their kind of comic personas. Wolverine slashes feel really kinetic. Captain America's shield throw can, bounces one way and comes back the other way. So yeah, I mean, it feels, it is, I enjoyed, what was it? The Capcom Marvel Avengers game way back in the day, with Vision and Hawkeye and Captain America, which was very kind of stiff, and this is much more fluid. I think if you've enjoyed Streets of Rage or Shredder's Revenge to any capacity, or I'm guessing it's going to have online co-op play as well, because Shredder's Revenge did. So this is ripe for get a group of friends together and kind of make your way through. It's hard to say how much meat is in this game. Like, belt scrollers are always enjoyable the first time through, but how many times can you kind of progress through? So without knowing really what the campaign looks like, but it could be very interesting if that campaign has different story beats for different characters. Or even just different dialogue aspects. I would think the dialogue is a rough word, right? Like it is, I would think these are going to be still images with some speech bubbles. But again, if they nail kind of it's one of the things you don't get in the arcade mode, is you don't really get a sense of the writing around these characters. And if that writing feels a little tongue in cheeky, you get a little bit in kind of the first boss, or the first and second bosses that you play. You get a tiny little Mordock that is whining about being shrunken. So there's little bits of humor in here, but it's not kind of over the top, kind of campy either.
Was there any voice acting at all that you saw in the arcade mode, or even if it was just like during gameplays, like the players saying their moves or something, something goofy like that? And
it was a
second
little
question,
bit. Yeah.
Sorry. And then did Shredder's Revenge have any kind of voice acting in like the campaign and stuff?
I think they did. There was
Right.
between the cutscenes, there was some voice. In between the stages in the cutscenes, there was some voice acting there. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try to follow the similar model.
Nice.
All right, very cool. And DBQ, anything else on Marvel Cosmic Invasion?
No, it's looking really tight, but it's also it's a genre where kind of what you're getting. So if it's not something that's clicked with you in the past, it's whether or not it does this time is a whole different question.
All righty, well, that wraps up segment 1. Let's move on to segment 2, our main news headlines. This first news story over on I think where am I doing it? On GameDevelopers.com.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I'm working on my Mac and some of the displays are different, particularly as I have hooked up the teleprompter tonight. Dune Awakening maker, I forgot that usually I try and bring these up on the screen. Sorry, I am coming in hot off vacation. So
you want me to take this one here, Game Logic?
No, I've got to pull up. Sorry.
Okay.
Dune Awakening maker Funcom laying off staff. Funcom is laying off staff months after the release of Dune Awakening. The amount of employees impacted is unknown. The company told Game Industry Biz in a statement that Dune Awakening is the company's biggest release in its 32-year history. A Funcom representative told Game Industry Biz that Dune Awakening has shown incredible potential, and that the right way forward is to focus our internal resources on releasing new content, features, and enhancements. The transition from development to long-term live operation, while also building towards a major console release next year, will require us to restructure our teams and focus our resources from across projects and studios, the representative said. Unfortunately, this also means having to say goodbye to cherished colleagues. DBQ Tao, any comments on this news story?
It's not. I mean, I guess it's not that surprising, right? If you think about Dune Awakening as a game that, as a MMO type of game, similar to when they did the Conan Exiles game, the amount of development needed to spin something up versus to sustain something is within a development cycle should be a little different. And in this climate, that's not, unfortunately, layoffs are not all that surprising. But it does make you wonder what the future of Dune Awakening looks like, where, Age of Conan lived for a long period of time as an MMO in the teens. Does Dune Awakening have that sense of scope and the ability to kind of continue to provide content if there's scaling down on development?
So that's the thing that sprang to mind for me. You mentioned that production development should look a little different than post, but with a live service game, and so for a quote unquote regular game, that's what I expect, right? Team ramps up, bulks up, pushes through crunch, gets the game out. They're at the largest size they're going to be, and then shortly after release, you expect, right, some contracted folk and temp folk to be late, quote unquote, laid off, to migrate from that project to the next one, for the remaining team to be a little slimmed down as they work on post-launch, DLC, O&M patches, stuff like that. For a live service game, I actually expect the opposite. Usually, I think we think of it as, if the game does well, then you expect them to staff up. So despite the PR speak here, I think the unfortunate, Dune Awakening, while something that, look, I read Dune when I was 13. It's a sci-fi story. It was my first probably because at the time the movie hadn't come out yet. So the first movie, I'm talking about the one with McLachlan in it. It was my first non-movie big sci-fi opus that I ever read, and so it's heavily ingrained kind of in some of my kind of favorite literature. But it was a dubious premise for me from the beginning, just the notion of doing Dune and not featuring the Atreides, right, and Muad'Dib is the central core part of the story. To me, I was I don't know how that's going to work. So I worry a little bit that this means that the game is not finding traction. Other comments in the story here is Tencent acquired 29% of its shares and had mentioned it had intended to acquire full ownership of the studio shares. As far as I know, as of to date, it has not done that. And so that to me is another potential indicator that Tencent changed its mind or is dragging its feet for one reason or another. Tao, do you have something you want to add in here?
No, I the only thing is I didn't realize this was even going to come to consoles eventually. So that's just interesting that they got that going too.
That's how you are kind of the game as a service person. Now that I've kind of exited that, it was you by yourself for a while, then I kind of joined you for a few years, and then now I'm out of it. So, but has this kind of come across your radar? This is, to me, it would kind of be in the vein of what's the one that we were keeping our eye on that was on Steam that launched last year? One, or it has One or Human or something in its title. Was it Once Human?
I think it's Once Human. Yeah, I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, that's the one I did play for a little bit. No, this one never really came across kind of my gaming space, just because I've never really been a Dune person. I've never read the books, never saw any of the movies, even though I'll probably watch the current ones at some point. But yeah, it was just never anything that was interesting to me. It is I don't mind these type of games either, so maybe I'll jump into it, but most likely not. But yeah, it was just never anything I was really into.
I forget how old Funcom is as a company, right? To go back to Anarchy Online as an early MMO in 2001, point and click adventures like Dreamfall or The Longest Journey, Secret World, right? The GTA MMO that kind of launched and crashed and relaunched again. So it's interesting to see them continue in this model of trying to make an MMO work in a modern setting, which has been increasingly difficult over the last decade. And I think Dune Awakening is even with a big IP, it's also a challenge to sustain that.
Yeah, and here Down Under mentions that, he's feeling that this should have been a narrative game. So I'm gonna pick on you a little, Hero, because I believe, and I say this with the greatest terms of endearment of our friendship. I believe, from what I know about you, that you are a person who often feels like 90% of everything that come out should be a story-driven narrative game, which I think is okay. I think this game in its inception was targeted to be multiplayer. But regardless of that, from the Dune lore perspective, again, like if you're gonna make it a story in the Dune universe and not have it be about the Atreides, I just don't know how well that's gonna play. My personal feeling is like the current generation of people who have gone to see the movie, it's a mixed demographic of people who are old heads and kind of know like the Dune lore and are big super sci-fi geeks, and are walking into it understanding it. Like that first movie in the 80s was I'm not even sure if that movie was a 2-hour movie. I want to say it was like an hour and 54 minutes. My brother and I went to see it, and I literally spent the entire movie, not that I minded, but I literally spent the entire movie like constantly telling him like what it was, which that's not a commentary on him. That's a commentary on like the Dune. The novel is like like 700 or 800 pages. It's like ridiculous. And I'm like, to expect that somebody's going to come in and understand all that world building in an hour and 54-minute movie or whatever it was, like just wasn't going to work. And like, I felt like the sci-fi treatment of the miniseries has been one of the best ones because it gives it the most time to breathe. But my point is, I believe that the current generation has seen that movie, who's not the old heads, has seen the movie because of the star power, right? Because of Chalamet and Zendaya. And so like, I don't believe that they fully grok like all of the like world building in it. So I just like can like transference of that from one media to the other type and expecting people to gain traction on it in today. I don't know how well that would work. So I don't know if this game was ever like, I don't know if this game was ever gonna, do a thing. So I'm sorry. I think I interrupted you a couple times there, DBQ.
No, I was more comments on the David Lynch movie and all the production issues and editing that the fights between Lynch and the studio, and that whole. I would agree that the sci-fi network version, gives a lot more space for the novel to breathe. And there's lots of world, both with Frank Herbert, but then also with his son and Kevin Anderson, kind of developing that world out. Like there's a lot of places where they could play into the narrative aspects and the story to kind of get at Hero Down Under's point of there's lots of potential narratives that could exist even without the Atreides and Harkonnen. So.
Well, and then here I mentioned Foundation as a game would have the same issue as Dune. Yes, I kind of agree, but then I feel like the help there, like in bringing the current generation over, because we're doing this whole like multiverse thing of like different media coming, different IP coming in on different media types, right? And that being a specific strategy of entertainment companies. I feel like the help with the Foundation series is, well, first of all, it's on Apple, right, which just feels like a higher prestige thing, as far as like the clientele who might be coming in, but also it's a series, right? So I feel like there's been, and unfortunately I just haven't had a chance to watch it. I've watched bits and pieces of it, but I feel like from what I've seen, like there's lots more world building and like expanding on it and like getting into that detail, which might help transfer some people over into video games. But we'll never know. I mean, I would say indicators aren't good for this one, Tao, as you and I often talk about, like the specific mystic mix that has to be in place for a live service game to do well and to have legs. Anything else on this one before we move on to the next one? Sorry, I know we took a little long with that. Next news story over on Eurogamer. Kingmakers delayed indefinitely as developer needs more time before we feel good about charging money for it. By Vicky Blake. I put this news story in the rundown as just part of a passion project thing that I've been keeping track of. It I liked the concept of the game the first time I saw it at whichever show, Summer Games Fest or something that I saw it. So I've been kind of keeping tabs on it. We don't have to spend too much time on it. Redemption Roads, time traveling, bring an assault rifle to a medieval sword fight shooter and strategy game. Kingmakers has been indefinitely delayed. Redemption stated it pushed the release to ensure it does not cut any planned features for the sake of getting it out of the door earlier, and apologize for letting players down. I can't remember. I think this was in early access. It was originally supposed to launch on October 8th. If people don't remember this game, first of all, the thing that's most impressive about this game is scale. It's just hundreds of troops on screen at the same time, and what it's about, if you remember the old movie The Final Countdown, which is a favorite of mine, it is about people who time travel back in time to interfere in old battles, but they bring modern weaponry to it. So it is literally three guys on an old Rat Patrol kind of Jeep, with weapons, but they're in there, messing it up with people back in the 15, 16, 1700s, I guess. It's a UE4 game. They're trying to make it hit 60 frames per second. So that's going to be tough. And from what I remember from this, what I saw, it's these aren't a bunch of veteran developers from old AAA studios. So it's unfortunate the game is being pushed out. I didn't track when they said, or I think maybe they just pushed it out indefinitely, but it shouldn't be a year or anything, because the game's already been in early access. So they have people who've paid for it. Hopefully it would, they'll just go offline for a few months or something. Did anybody catch how far out it was being pushed, or did they say?
No, not that I've seen. I was trying to look through the article. It just says indefinitely. So
yeah,
right. I think that's, by the use of the word indefinitely, we're not going to get a title there or a target date.
A date or anything, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Again, moving quickly, I missed the fact that I rolled right over the fact that indefinitely is in the title. So, okay. Next news story in the rundown is about Claire Obscure. This story over on Dual Shockers. Potential Game of the Year, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 might also score soundtrack Grammy. Again, this is another quick hit. Expedition 33 has stood in its own league as 2025's Game of the Year contender, with very little coming anywhere close to rivaling it so far. On top of a well-written, deeply emotional, and complex story, the game also featured very solid and engaging gameplay. Another key element that helped elevate Expedition 33 from a unique French fantasy JRPG into a beloved masterpiece is the game's soundtrack. I've bought the soundtrack at least once. It's available on Apple Music, Amazon Prime Music, as well as Spotify if you want to stream it, but it's also available via a digital album purchase. It basically goes on to say that the record company which owns the rights to the soundtracks, the people who basically publish the album, have been stumping on social media with the I think with the Grammy committee for a Grammy consideration, and so. This would be really interesting. I think, as a music lover and a person who loves soundtracks of video games and movies, it would be great if more people were exposed to this. I thought it was really unfortunate that was it Gamescom opening night live, that the performance for this was one song. I have tweeted out, not that anybody's going to pay any attention to anything. I've tweeted out that look, if you bring this group to to in concert somewhere, to have them do the bulk of the album, or an hour performance or something like that, I would definitely pay to do that. I would love to see them be part of Video Games Live, the music series that I think Jeff Keighley is behind that too, pulling together the funding for that. So
it was a Tommy Tallarico thing originally, so I don't know. Yeah, but
okay.
Who knows at this point if Keighley is invested in it. But yeah, I mean, there are more and more local symphonies in major markets that are doing Final Fantasy music on tour or have done video game compilations. So it certainly is likely to hit some of those as well.
Yep. Tao, any comments on that one?
It's been a while since I've like paid attention to Grammy stuff, but I didn't realize they had like a video game. Oh, it says video game and other interactive media, but kind of section for that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool they do that now.
Yep. Next story in the rundown is over on GameDeveloper.com. Saudi Arabia is taking EA private alongside other investors. If you guys remember, we reported on this story last Sunday on the rumblings that were being heard that this was in the works. And then the very next day, we mentioned on that show, I think DBQ, you mentioned we'll be following up on this story. And the very next day, of course, the deal actually went through and was officially announced. An investor consortium that includes Saudi Arabia's state-backed public investment fund has agreed to acquire Battlefield, Apex Legends, and EA Sports FC maker Electronic Arts for $55 billion. Rumors of a deal began circulating last week and have now been confirmed by EA. The U.S. publisher, which owns a number of development studios such as BioWare, DICE, Maxis, Motive, Respawn, and Criterion, has entered into a definitive agreement to be acquired by a consortium of investors that includes PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners, the latter of which is the investment firm established by U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Now, two additional things have come out of objective, tangible things about this deal. We spent some time speculating about what it could mean last week. Two things are a statement that has come out. I forget who released it, but which is that part of the discussion that's happened in putting this deal together is that the private equity firm is looking to really gain some efficiencies in how EA produces games in order to better their profit margin. And so the specific mention was for AI, the use of AI, which, I think we're all kind of starting to see the implications of like how that could water down content. The other thing that was mentioned, or at least that I maybe did a little research on, is there's this notion that there's $20 billion in this $55 billion deal is debt from JP Morgan. Now, when we originally talked about it, I thought it had something to do with past debt or with their debt to equity ratio that they currently carry. But actually that is $20 billion that's being put in by JP Morgan. That is, well, the private equity consortium went to JP Morgan to borrow the 20 billion, and that is being used to sweeten the deal so that the payout to shareholders is, I guess, commensurate with the company value or maybe better.
It's 25% above so it's a premium price on the existing share price. That it's coming in at 210 is what the premium will be, and the share price has been around 168, 179 this year.
Yeah, and as far as I came across, this is like the largest instance of where there's been any type of credit-based funding to put a deal through like this ever before.
Yeah, to me, I'm nodding my head on this because this really is the kind of, for me, the big indicator of what this looks like going forward. To have $20 billion in structured debt that you're going to have to pay debt service on an annual basis really impacts the bottom line, right? In terms of what a company needs to do in order to break even. Like last week when we talked about this, there was still kind of conversation out there of potentially not being a public company means that you don't have quarterly shareholders to kind of manage and hit ever increasing expectations, that you can put things out and give things a little more runway as long as you're kind of breaking even. But adding 20 billion of debt service on any company it creates a significant kind of fiscal crunch. And so I've been reading things on here of whether or not they keep EA as all one company or spin out two different versions, like an EA Games and an EA Sports, and then the potential to saddle one of those areas, right? The speculation around spinning out the sports titles that have a constant and kind of ready stream of revenue, and putting the debt on EA Games or on something different. There's lots of different financial ways that this could be structured, but I think it makes it challenging to see the health of the company in a positive creative tone after this. That I think EA will exist. I think many of the game properties will continue to exist. I also can see that, in order to service this debt, maybe some IPs get sold off or other types of different things. So yeah, and Hero Down Under is talking about EA Sports has a better chance of raising more money. Yeah, or at least creating consistent money. I think that's the ultimate team aspect of that is where there is that consistent ongoing revenue stream.
Well, what's weird is the companies had already been split, right? At least from a corporate organization, and I assume P&L center perspective. And so EA Sports was its own thing notionally, and Electronic Arts EA Games was its own thing. So now you have this firm acquiring it. I haven't seen any indication that structure is going to be dissolved. So I guess internally and from an executive leadership perspective, those chains of command would still be separated between the two organizations. So yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the killer thing is, and of course, we had the story break over the weekend that theoretically, allegedly, as reported by Bloomberg, Call of Duty lost $300 million in revenue last year by virtue of putting Call of Duty in Game Pass. And now you have a company taking on, and I think that is going to have an adverse impact on revenue because obviously you have to pay that debt back, right? So you're making money. While also like leaking money, right, and to do the debt payback. So I just don't know like what that's going to look like. And then you have where the EA Games part of it, not to say that these have been bad games or by any means, but you have the Veilguard issue, right? And so like if that organization puts out a bunch of Veilguards, that's not helping you pay down that $20 billion in debt, right? So therefore, knowing that those are going to be the challenges and the adversity that organization is going to face and the collective organization is going to face, what does that mean that this private equity firm, what does that mean in terms of the decisions that they're going to make?
I think the Veilguard piece, it goes right back to Hero Down Under's comment on narrative games, right? Those are longer term investments. They are gambles in terms of how they're going to be received in the marketplace and what the revenue generated from them is going to be. That if they need to have this debt service on an annual basis, I think those become harder things to say yes to.
Yeah, Tao, any commentary on this one?
Just talking about like you had mentioned, like the executive structure, like you didn't even mention here, like the current CEO is gonna stay there for now. I'm gonna say because my current company went through the same thing where we went private, then we were bought out by a private equity firm, and in that time we've had 4, maybe even 5 CEOs. I kind of lost count at a certain point because even though they didn't have a board, but they still have to, that person has to report into the private equity firm, and obviously if stuff's not working, you're on. They're going to switch you out, and because they're looking for that money. They get return on on all their money that they got. And this is this is huge. Our company's kind of big, but it's nowhere near anything like this. So you got a whole lot of money now that they're going to be looking at, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do or what they do with all these companies. The different companies, if they do collapse them together, do they leave them separate? Like how's that going to work? Because like even with us, we sold off a lot of little companies that we had owned. All those were sold off pretty much except for maybe like a couple, like 1 or 2. So it's just going to be interesting. And I think here, what does it say? If everything goes through, it's going to be Q1 2027. If the deal actually closes, when the deal closes, if it closes. So we still got like a year out, over a year. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that goes. And then how that affects, the games that are currently there now. Obviously, like sports games, like you said, I mean, those are probably safe because those are pretty much, money generators right now for now. But you never know. But just to see how everything else kind of goes within the company.
I think another piece here, I mean, we're spending time on the financial aspects because there are a lot of kind of big exclamation point red flags of concern. I think the other piece that we talked a little bit about last week is also the kind of human rights aspects around Saudi Arabia and some of the concerns there. Last week we talked about how multiple different investments and the Saudi Arabian government has stake in a number of different entertainment sports areas in video game companies. But this is one of the few times when it is kind of an out-and-out purchase versus having a minority share in something as well.
Good points. Good points. Let's move on to the next news story in the rundown. This story, again, over at GameDeveloper.com. Starbreeze making layoffs after scrapping D&D project to focus on Payday. Payday maker Starbreeze has canceled its upcoming Dungeons & Dragons project, codenamed Project Baxter, to refocus on its long-running Payday franchise. Baxter was billed as a co-op urban crawl through a reactive Dungeons & Dragons world, and was also due to be published by Starbreeze. The title had been given a tentative 2026 release date. It looks like 44 people are potentially affected. So it's a co-op urban crawl through a reactive. So when I read urban, that translates to me as modern. Maybe that's not what it means. Maybe it just means it's a town centric or city centric in the Forgotten Realms, or the Sword Coast side. So it's still grounded in kind of a D&D like fantasy setting, but it's just, more in a town than, out in a dungeon or out in the wild or something like that. So, I mean, Payday, I don't think has gone well either. This has not been well received.
No, I remember it seemed like the community was kind of falling off of Payday 3 and coming back to Payday 2. Starbreeze has spent a lot of time over the years continuing to support and improve things. So, but yeah, it didn't land very positively when it first came out.
And, with Tao just talking about rolling CEOs, that is one that I believe had CEOs come across the project. I think maybe 2 CEOs. I think they've had 3 CEOs since the project began. I'm not absolutely certain, but I think there was a guy who took over just before this game was released to try and kind of be the person who got it out the door. So, yeah, again, I think tonight's theme is a lot of people trying to fix things that still leave dubious propositions that anything is going to be turned around, right? Tao, any comments on this one?
No, yeah, I mean the D&D game sounded kind of cool, actually. Like I was kind of interested in that, but obviously that's dead and gone. So, and I was never really a Payday guy. So, hopefully they can, correct that ship, get it going again the right way, and hopefully, just start making other games, because I know they've usually been a pretty respected developer. So, other than they had what was the movie friend? The movie I can't remember the guy's name now. The Vin Diesel game they had, wasn't that Starbreeze, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Well, you're thinking about Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, I think it started back with that. That was Starbreeze, right? Wasn't it?
I think so. Not have to look that up, but yeah, that was Xbox
sure
PC.
Yeah, and I remember, I think they did The Darkness too after that, which is well received, but it wasn't, I don't think, a commercial success. But obviously, and then Payday came along, and they hit big with that. But hopefully they kind of get things straightened out.
All right, well, let's move on to the main course for this evening. Xbox fans cancel Game Pass subscriptions en masse, react to unjustified company move.
Okay, before we get into that, I just want to take that headline and say, I appreciate that you can, the headline is using quotes around unjustified, but it also feels very clickbaity in terms of what the news actually is, in terms of the unjustified part. So let's talk about it.
Well, let's talk about that right off the bat, right? Well, okay. Let me read the first couple paragraphs. Companies being criticized left and right by just about everyone. Subscription services, once heralded as the replacement for old school cable TV, have slowly but surely become way more expensive for no particular reason. I don't know that I would limit subscription services to. I mean, I would say that no one, I don't think anyone was particularly happy about paid music subscription services. People were pretty happy about Pandora. People were definitely happy about YouTube Music. Yes, yay, verily, subscription services kind of became hero worshipped in the notion of they were the takedown of like the big bad ugly cable company and things we were tired about. But at any rate, have slowly but surely become way more expensive for no particular reason. Xbox is just the latest of them all, increasing its tiers by as much as $10, which anchored fans to a degree rarely seen in gaming. Recently, Xbox has made the decision to increase the price of its Game Pass subscription service, one used by millions across PC and console. The increase is a substantial one and has even brought along fundamental changes to some of its tiers. For example, 2 of the tiers will not feature day one releases, despite having their price adjusted, with this feature reserved only for Game Pass Ultimate, now costing $30 per month or $360 per year. I will also say a thing that seems bothersome to me about just kind of some of the journalists reporting on this is like they're acting like this thing is like Game Pass, like Day and Date was paywalled to Game Pass Ultimate the last time they raised prices. Like that's not new. Not saying that that's justified, right? But I'm saying like it's not like this is the first time it happened. So at any rate, DBQ, yeah, let's get to it. Like kick us off with that start of that discussion. Your pushback on the notion of the use of the term unjustified.
Well, I think unjustified and also the no particular reason, right? I'll take a little bit of umbrage with the quote unquote journalism in this article, but there's enough other reporting around here that the larger story is the reality of the unsustainability of subscription services, whether it's Hulu raising their prices for Disney bundles, whether it's Xbox raising their prices. It is the challenge. We have seen this across different medium with subscription services, where once your user base stops growing, that there's no other way to increase your revenue around it without you either increase costs or you cut licensing fees, which decrease value. And so I think the fact that we haven't seen any Xbox Game Pass numbers over the last year or more is definitely a sign that, and there's, Phil was out there saying that things are starting to plateau even back in 23. That if the Xbox is anywhere marketing push from this past year and the full launch of cloud support and introduction of Xbox cloud gaming in Roku and Amazon Fire Sticks and on Samsung TVs, if that hasn't moved the needle in terms of continuing to expand subscribers, then I think it is reasonable from a corporate spreadsheet in terms of budget line number that one way you make that number balance is by increasing the price that you're charging people. Whether that makes it a good value is a whole different question. And for me, this was a rough news week, right? As somebody who plays a whole lot of EA games and has had Game Pass Ultimate since it launched, like both of these news stories really have me kind of second guessing where my value is. As Hero Dunner says, the $10 a month price is it still kind of keeps a good, what I perceive as a good value. That is the kind of base package that gives you, now the base package has you having cloud ability, which you didn't have before, that they added additional games to it. A lot of those games are not new games, as Hero says, right? As long as you're not there for the day one games, there is some value in those lower tiers, but as those other tiers increased in price, and this is not just Game Pass Ultimate, this is Game Pass Console, this is Game Pass PC, we've seen increases in all of those. And I'm really curious kind of what the consumer reaction to this, if people feel like it's at $30 a month. Is it worth it for everything that you play, or are you better off spending 2.5 months worth of subscription to actually buy the one game that you want to play in terms of Call of Duty or something else?
Tao? You are probably, I mean, at this point, you are probably the member of the cast that consumes the most from Xbox. So what are your feelings on the things that have gone on this week?
Yeah, I mean, the bump up to it'll be 30 now a month. I mean, for what they're giving you, I mean, it's a lot. Like, you get, obviously you get the cloud gaming, you still get the day one stuff. They've added Fortnite Crew now, which is a big thing. Ubisoft Classics plus Classics, which is kind of like their older games that they put on there. You still have EA Play on there. Of course, unlimited cloud gaming, which is on all tiers now. They've kind of spread that across everything. The in-game benefits. It's just, for me personally, like it's way too much just because of all the subscription services, you know, I'm going for now. I'm still contemplating if I want to just drop down to the you know, the $10 one, or even what I forgot they're called. There's something different now. So Essential is the base one that you get now instead of Core, and then there's Premium, and then obviously you get the Ultimate. But yeah, I'm struggling because even before all this, I was like, like Game Pass was nice because I was able to play games like I wouldn't normally would, because, you know, I'd find stuff on there like I think that was kind of just the discoverability of it was nice. But as of late, I've been drawn back more into games where I'm just I don't say stuck in there, but where I'm just like focused, like totally focused on these games, like No Man's Sky. Like I jumped back into like big time this year, and I really haven't played anything else other than that, other than some things here and there. I'm always playing, you know, Fortnite, which I already have the Fortnite Crew subscription anyways, you know, without this, you know, the Ultimate Game Pass subscription. You know,
the Fortnite one is $10 a month? Is that correct, Tao?
I believe, yeah, it's $11.99. Yeah, so it's $12.
I mean, so yeah, that takes a chunk of money off. If you're already paying that subscription, it eats into that $30 certainly. Yeah,
definitely. But I just don't do that kind of discovery thing like I used to as much anymore. Like every once in a while, maybe like once or twice a year. But before I would do it like almost every month, if not, you know, maybe every other month. And, you know, and that was, you know, I found a value in it at that point for me.
Well,
like I said, just for me.
I remember where you were going through the games that were in the Game Pass inventory in the carousel just alphabetically.
Yeah, I had been doing. I stopped that a couple of years ago just because it was too much. Just because I didn't have enough time anymore to be able to do that. And every once in a while, I kind of still do that, but it's been pretty rare though, especially the last couple of years. You know, you got. I think the in-game perks is for all of them now that you get, which is nice. The in-game benefits, like, you know, cosmetics or whatnot for just any game, not just Fortnite stuff. I think that's all tiers now too. So they have kind of adjusted things, but yeah, that $30 is just too much right now, at least for right now. So you know, I think it was you know, after thinking about it, like, you know, you do, like DB says, you have to do something, I guess. You know, you have to increase the price, and they did add, like I said, a lot of stuff. So it kind of just made sense they'd have to do that, you know, and that is like the highest tier. I think everybody was like, oh my God, you know, it's going to $30, but you don't have to pay that ultimate price anymore. I mean, you can drop down if you need to, and
well,
even
you have to pay it if you want day and date, which, and I mean, I think it's fair to acknowledge that the bait and switch of Game Pass was that was the promise of Game Pass. That was the lauded value proposition, was first party, day and date. And even the last time they moved that behind the paywall to the upper tier, so you had no rate. And I mean, the commentary, last time when this came out was like, what they have done is they have crowbarred you into the perception that the only thing that is really of value is to, like, if you want value, you need to go to Game Pass Ultimate. Because when they did this last time, the point in Game Pass Ultimate was day and date, and it was Xbox Cloud Gaming, right? Like, two of the biggest, every screen is an Xbox thing hinges on cloud gaming. So when they did it that time, it was like, okay, well then like the only way I'm participating in like the thing that you are like bullish about in your ad copy is to be on Ultimate. Now I agree with you, DBQ. Like this time putting Cloud on each tier like is a plus, but I'm sorry to interrupt, Tal, but that was my only point is like, okay, but you know, you got me in the door with day and date, right, at the cheapest possible price, and then over time you have up tiered me and told me that in order to continue capturing value, I got to pay more and pay more and pay more, but also I need to move to the highest tier. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tal.
No, you're good. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like I said, even before this happened, I was already thinking of kind of just letting that wane, like letting the subscription just kind of, you know, pass, and then if I saw something, I sign up for like a month or whatever, a couple months, and I still might do that with Call of Duty when it comes out, or I might just buy it outright. I mean, I've been doing that for years. I'd actually just buy the game, so it's not a big deal there. But yeah, I think just overall, just after the kind of the sticker shock, I was just like, okay, like, you know, they've added a bunch of stuff, so you know, I mean, I don't want to say it justifies the price, but I mean, it does. I mean, Fortnite Cruise, you know, almost half of that $30, like you mentioned before, like just as it is, plus the Ubisoft, and you still have EA Play that's been on there for a while. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like I said, I've already let it. I already had my month kind of. I think it's up at the end of the month for Game Pass, and I'm just gonna let it go for now. And like I said, I'll just kind of play it by ear after that.
Yeah, so I'm paid up until April of 26. You know, after picking up sale things and pre-codes and things like that, but it really is, it feels in some ways like taken in isolation, I understand it. The fact that it's coming kind of 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks off the back of significant console increases for Microsoft really feels like it is difficult to see how any new consumer would see jumping into this infrastructure as a real kind of value for the money. Like if you are just trying to launch into Xbox, the value is running Game Pass without owning anything, right? I think that's and I don't know how successful that's been.
So my feelings are, and I'm going to try and walk a tightrope because I probably have 3 hours of stuff to talk about on this. And notice we specifically are not going through the hyper level of detail that you would have to go through to even understand what the tiers are now.
Actually, before you get to that real quick, yeah. Isn't this the second price hike for this year, or within a year, or a little over a year?
It's a second price hike. I believe it is a second price hike within 12 months, or at least 13. It was I want to say it was last fall that they did the tiering.
The last one.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that was maybe in August, like right before Gamescom, I want to say. Or Tokyo, right? It was either right before Gamescom or Tokyo Game Show last year that they did it, I thought.
Okay, I was just wondering. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. So I have lots of different thoughts and feelings on this. So I would agree that from a mathematical perspective, if I look at what I think like would typically be the cost to consumer at most of the tiers, the prices are pretty right sized, right? And actually, my overall assessment on the T-shirt sizing of these tiers is that the price points they're at are actually correct. And I actually personally don't think it's going to have that huge of an impact on Xbox's current subscriber base. I think most people, if they don't like the $30 price point, are going to down tier to premium. Somebody that I was talking to on Twitter actually made a really good statement, which is like, hey, if I find value in Game Pass, but like some of the day and date stuff is too much, why would I not just down tier to the $15 and then like the first party games that I actually really want, I just buy those. Like if I really want Call of Duty, then I'll just pay the $70, right? I still at the end of the day come out cheaper. And I think that type of calculus is going to lead people. One of the assessments that I made maybe a month ago or so when I was looking at different metrics and stuff. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. The reality of the Xbox financial base is that they have because of the whole 500 million MAU thing, right? But the fact that they make $7 billion less in revenue than PlayStation, which has 134 million MAU, right? What that reality says to me after I did some math on it is that Xbox has a very tight nucleus of, I'll just colloquially use the term pay pigs, right? Like they have a very tight nucleus of people who spend, and they're buying their Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. They stay in Game Pass Ultimate. They don't churn. They buy games, and they buy like all the hardware stuff, right? These are the people who spent $1,000 to pre-order, right? The Asus ROG Xbox Ally. And then as you get further away from that nucleus, the ARPU gets more and more diluted, right? Because it's clear at 500 million MAU, but making less revenue than PlayStation, each individual customer is spending less money than the average PlayStation consumer overall. But that nucleus of people who pay is very consistent. And like those people, when they do the math, I'm pretty sure they're going to say, hey, $360 a year is still less than overall what I would pay if I bought every single one of these games. So I think those people are going to say, at worst, they're going to down tier. And then the other thing I reminded people of is, let's also not forget, like, you kind of have to have Essential, right? Like, if you're going to engage in multiplayer, unless you specifically, like, it's a specific, like, bargain hunting thing that you only play the free-to-play multiplayer games, you're going to pay for Essential. It's the default. So it's not like people are rolling out of that. So I think you're going to see a lot of churn this month, right? But I'm pretty sure that, like, consumer behaviors, right? Thanksgiving holiday, you're sitting around at home, you're on your phone, you can re-up for Game Pass, right? You've got downtime. First party games are coming out, stuff you haven't played. That shock that happens when you cancel and then you go and look at your library and you see tons of games that you can now no longer play, right? I think the loud outcry, like Alderaan has just been blown up by the Death Star. Like I think that's going to pass, in a month or so. I think that's just the reality of it. And I'm not saying that it's right. But I'm saying I think that's actually going to be the response from the consumer base. So I think the math is okay. I think the t-shirt sizes are right. I think the consumer base will be okay. Here's where I have the problem with it, and why I think the unjustified title in this news story is okay. As I've been saying for 5 years, this is I'm trying to think of a term I can use without getting us we don't monetize, so it doesn't matter. But like, so I can keep it pure with the ethos of the show. Like, I really have a hard time figuring out how much more of a baby diaper full of green poop you can make out of the PR of this. Like, you were just glad handing with influencers out at Tokyo Game Show. You said nothing to them. And then you dropped this the following week. And at the time that you were out at TGS, you had to know that this was coming, right? And we're not even addressing the rumors tonight of like all the other stuff that's potentially going on with Xbox. One thing that's not a rumor is how Satya Nadella is shifting some of his responsibilities over to a new CEO of their commercial business, which I'm still trying to pull apart and totally understand whether or not that person is just another CEO alongside some of the business line specific CEOs such as Phil Spencer and the guy who has AI now, and I think the guy who has cloud, or whether or not Satya is actually delegating a large part of his CEO duties to this person so he can concentrate on AI. I'm still trying to figure that out, but there have been things that were going on and like nobody said anything, right? This was put out, the way this was put out as like, we're upgrading the plans, right? I saw another podcast, which admittedly is hosted by people who are quite frankly kind of ridiculous in their statements, and is in no way any type of actual business analysis, but talk about how this isn't actually increasing a price. It was that things were added right to these services. And that a price increase would have been had they increased the price but kept everything the same. The problem with that perspective is that works in a cell carrier behavioral model set, where what the cell carriers typically do is they typically raise the price for new customers, but what they do is they grandfather everyone in, and typically everyone who's already on board can continue paying the old price at the same service level without all the extra stuff, at the same service level, right? They're not forced to, like, you did raise the price because you then took away the option for other people, for people to stay paying what they were paying before. So the people who were saying, thanks very much, you increased the price, and yes, you added a bunch of stuff, but I don't give a crap about that other stuff. Like, that stuff doesn't move the needle for me. I don't need, like, Tao, I'm glad you brought it up, because I've been trying to tell people that people like you exist. People like you who either play Fortnite a lot or are already on Fortnite crew, or maybe they're interested in Fortnite and, you know, they already play it a lot, but they don't pay into it, but they are on Game Pass Ultimate. Like, you know, now, like, there's not 0 people who play Fortnite on Xbox, right? There are a bunch of people who play Fortnite on Xbox. And now, if they're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate, this is a benefit to them, but it's not a benefit to a lot of other people. So yes, you did increase price because you took people's freedom away. And then this is the PR nightmare, right? Phil Spencer on stage after the showcase last year with Ryan McCaffrey saying, I don't want to do slimy corporate stuff to you to force you to play the way I want you to play. This is the example of slimy corporate stuff to force people to play the way you want them to play. These tiers are, in my mind, very arbitrary. They're not realistic. I firmly believe that what happened was the Xbox division was told, you're going to raise prices on Game Pass. You are going to have, like, you need to make this amount of money. They may have been told exactly, you're going to have a $30 tier, a $15 tier, and whatever essential tier is. Now you go off and you make that make sense. There's stuff in here that doesn't make sense. Like, yes, they got Xbox Cloud Gaming DBQ, but the notion that people now have wait times, and that, like, the way they differentiated value is by your wait time gives you higher, and, like, I can't think of a more, like, these bananas are riper than these bananas, and so therefore these bananas are 10 cents more, like cockamamie nonsense nitwit way to differentiate, like, subscription tiers than something like that. So my big problem is how this has just, like, the messaging on this has just been, like, ridiculous, and in many ways forces it to come across as not making sense. I firmly believe that the diehards and the loyalists and other people are going to stick with it, and for them it makes sense. But I agree with you. I have a hard time figuring out how it makes sense for people to get into it, particularly in a time now where it's, like, difficult to get an Xbox because you have retailers that are now no longer carrying the thing. Like, and at the end of the day, overall, this makes me go, where is this going? Like, so you're gonna keep the legacy people. They're in the pool. Okay. But you've really created a huge wall of friction that says, why in the world would anybody get into this thing now? And this has led to my assessment that, like the reality is, Game Pass in my mind has peaked. Like, you're going to get people because the economy is going to get worse, because tariffs are going to make things more expensive, because people are going to have less money to buy games. Maybe, you know, if we get into a recession, you know, things like that, you know, as game prices go up to $80, you're going to get people who are incentivized to, oh, maybe I should do the Game Pass. But, like, you've kind of removed this notion that it's a no-brainer. At $20, I'd say it was still kind of sort of a no-brainer for certain types of consumers. Now you've created this thing where people really have to, like, sit down and do math on a napkin to decide if it makes sense for them to get into this thing. And a lot of people are going to decide it doesn't. So I just kind of struggle with, like, what the whole plan is. I mean, the plan to me is clearly not 110 million subscribers by 2027, 2028 by any means. This thing that's going on with Call of Duty is shocking. Shocking in its level and its impact, because $300 million in missed revenue, I also read as they didn't just lose 300 million, they lost more than 300 million, and whatever they made up from new Game Pass subscribers brought them up to 300 million loss. So what does that mean, and how does it play out? So I think there's more to come on this. I didn't talk for 3 hours. I still talk for probably 10 or 15 minutes. And I apologize for that, but this is rough, I think. This is rough from a greater Xbox business perspective. I think the impact on Game Pass is actually very small. I think it makes it rougher to kind of get an idea of what's going on with Xbox, and that therefore makes it a hugely challenging value proposition to new gamers coming into the fold. Anything else you guys want to add on that?
I was just going to say the other thing too was they left some things off of this announcement, where some stuff was taken off that they didn't talk about right away during this initial announcement, like the DLC discounts you got from Game Pass, the old Game Pass, and I forget did this start already? This new tier system, or is it got a date?
So it kind of sort of has started already. So anyone new coming in has to go into these new tiers. Anyone who is already in, it doesn't kick in until November 4th.
Okay. But there's like discounts you got for DLC, and I think even games too. I don't know about the games part. Maybe
those have already gone. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that was one thing that came up that they just didn't mention.
The game discounts you still get, right? Not the DLC discounts, but like you still get, like a Game Pass subscriber gets some percentage knocked off. Okay. Yeah, and notice how a good point is another thing that, again, why this is like this is just like it feels like a bunch of interns running PR. Like
oh, maybe it is. You never know.
I mean, we talked about it in the Discord, right? There's nothing in the Xbox Wire, which is the equivalent of the PlayStation blog, where like you would expect official announcements. There's nothing mentioned on PC Game Pass is not even mentioned in that article. And PC Game Pass actually also increased by $4.50, which is not insignificant. When you go to the Join Game Pass page now, it has the three, I'll call them console tiers, right? The PC only thing is a little tiny, like ribbon bar, 1 column wide on a 3 column wide page that you have to press to expand to see what PC Game Pass is. And then that's where you can see the price increase, but then you could also see what PC only is. And that is one thing that I'll mention tonight. And so now, congratulations, all of you on Game Pass are all PC Game Pass members. So like at the tiered number of title differential, so 50, then 75, then 400 or 500 plus, those all now include access on PC, which is good for people getting the Asus ROG Xbox Ally, right? Because now your Game Pass subscription carries over if you're on the console. If you're getting this handheld, now you get games over there too. There is no more really PC Game Pass. There is now PC only, which still includes day and date. So technically, the cheapest way to get day and date is to be on PC only. I've heard that I didn't think that included Xbox Cloud Gaming before, but one of my mutuals mentioned that it does, but now it doesn't. So they pulled that off. So I don't know. That's you've got to figure that out. But yeah, it's like just how this whole thing was handled just seemed very immature from a business perspective, right? In terms of like the maturity level of handling, value streams and customer communications and things like that. It's just weird. Okay. Anything else on that we want to cover? Okay. Let's quickly get through our last segment. So our regular rundown and other games that we have been playing. And I'll start. I didn't get a chance to play a lot this week because I went on vacation over the weekend. So one of the things I did take my Steam Deck LCD with me, and I have been playing Art of Rally on the Steam Deck. It's a game that's been out for a while. It's interesting because when I was playing it this weekend, I realized that, I've had my Steam Deck for 3 years, which would definitely normally be the point that I would think about like upgrading something or at least kind of looking around. I'm not really. I'm pretty happy with my Steam Decks, but it just gave me pause and a moment to think, in particular because I do like playing a lot of racing games on my Steam Deck, and there are times that I feel like the ergos aren't great. So I'm like, what is the best, between the Lenovo Legion Go 2, which is out now, the MSI Claw AI, I don't know if it's the 8 Plus or another model, but the new thing that's coming out with the Z2 Extreme processor, and I guess this Xbox ROG Ally, which would be another option, given that it has more RAM, I think, than some of the other baseline models. I do wonder, like, what is the one with the best ergos that would help me out, with with how my hands get sore and stuff after holding a handheld for a while. So that might be something that I give some more thought to. But this weekend I felt like the ergos actually worked well, and I actually had a lot easier time kind of trail breaking in corners, which you have to do a lot of in Art of Rally. And so I really had a great time with it. It's a racer that just gets, like, even though you've had it for a while, I feel like it's one of those races that just gets better and better and better and better. Good time with that. DBQ, you have also been playing on Steam Deck. What are you?
Yeah, I'll just hit a quick game here on Steam Deck. It's on sale for $5 right now. It came out last year. It was rated pretty well. It's a Vampire Survivors like. So the game is Halls of Torment. Halls of Torment is Vampire Survivors if it was kind of modeled in late 90s graphics. It feels very like Diablo 1 type graphics. You've got kind of directional control over where your auto attacks go. You unlock different characters. You start off as kind of a sword wielding barbarian. You get magic and archer character. It's Vampire Survivors. But it's enjoyable. I ended up sinking more time into it than I thought for $5. And in part, there's a number of kind of skills that you unlock. There's some meta progression, but the individual runs are pretty fun. A couple weeks ago, I talked about Jotun. Trying to remember but it was another Vampire Survivors like, but in more of a Diablo 4 types of graphic style. This one is much more retro, but worked great on the Steam Deck. I found myself losing half hours at a time just doing a couple different runs over the past couple days.
Okay, and Tao, it's interesting that so much of our regular rundown round robin stuff is handhelds, because Tao, you've been playing on Nintendo Switch 2, including a title that I plan on getting into on the Switch 2 later this week.
Yeah, I jumped back into my Switch 2. I hadn't actually played it really that much over the past few weeks. I have been playing a lot on my Steam Deck because I've been playing a lot, like I said, No Man's Sky. So I was playing that. But I jumped back into MLB The Show. That was 23, I believe, on the Switch that I have. The original Switch. I could play it on the Switch 2. Just, going through my Road to the Show, my guy I created on there. So I'm in AAA. I think I mentioned that earlier in the year. Finally made it to AAA. So just coasting through, going through those games. I actually started out really good the other day. I had first 2 at-bats, home runs each one. So that was good. That was a rare occurrence. I don't think I've ever done that before. So that was kind of nice. And then next up, I jumped back into No Man's Sky on Nintendo Switch 2. It's still, the versions are still different for the Voyages update. So I don't have my cross save that I've been playing, but I wanted to jump back in. I was just like, well, I'll just play. I hadn't started a save on there on the Switch, I think earlier in the year or late last year at some point. So I was like, I'll jump back into that. They do have the 6.0, which was like the first Voyages update that came out. I think everything else has 6.05 or 6. I can't remember what it is, somewhere around there. So, but I was like, I'll just play, kind of goof around with the, building my own ship and maybe kind of, screw around on there until I can get my other save on there, and I can, kind of hone my skills on the Corvette building there. So I've been doing that. I'm doing a lot of that. I on the Switch version, I haven't beat the storyline yet, so I might kind of start doing that a little bit more also. Maybe, I don't know. Eventually, hopefully they'll stars will align and we'll get all the versions correct. I don't know if I'm assuming it's on Nintendo side. Maybe they're just a little bit more strict with their updates on there, because I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks before we even got the 6.0 update. So, and like I said, since it's been 2 weeks past that now, I think, and we haven't got any other updates since then. So kind of stinks, but like I said, at least I can practice on, some of my my ship building skills. So I've been playing that, and then been playing a lot of Skate period still, both on Xbox Series X and PC. I just haven't, ton of fun with that, just doing the missions. I've been so when you're looking at your map, you have a whole bunch of missions actually that you can do, quests you can do, and it's just like different lines of different skate tricks you can do and stuff like that. But some of the missions, I would say probably more than half really, are ones that rotate daily throughout the weeks, and then the other ones are just kind of following the storyline. So I've been kind of just going through the storyline missions and quests and doing those just to kind of finish that off. Now I don't know yet. I haven't really seen anything like if you get through the storyline, like if that's it, or if there's going to be more at some point. Maybe I don't know, or it kind of just goes on forever eventually. But kind of just going through those right now. And there's like four or five areas on the map that you have access to the whole map, but you kind of unlock those challenges as you're kind of like tearing up on the through the storyline mode, or I don't want to say campaign, because I mean there's no you don't pick a mode. It's just you're always in it. So I think I have at least one area left that I still have to unlock and get those challenges going. So I'm kind of working my way up to that, and just messing around with all the different kind of goofy things you can do in that game. So having a lot of fun with it still. So that's pretty much been my week.
Very cool. And I plan on joining you on not joining your game, but because I'll be starting off new in my career. So, planning on also getting into No Man's Sky on the Switch too this week.
Nice. It runs really good on the Switch too. Kind of looking at the graphics from the original one and into this one. It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard it's getting high praise. One of the things that I did play before I took off on vacation was Snowrunner on PC. I broke out my Thrustmaster T300 RS PlayStation Edition wheel and pedals and was getting into that. One of the things I was very hesitant to get into it because I feel like it's one of those games that like, where the heck was I? What was I doing? But I was actually quickly reorienting myself where it is. I'm probably going to fold the wheel and pedals up now to probably get into Ghost of Yotei maybe later this week on my PlayStation 5, and I can't get to my PS5 when the PC I'm playing it on blocks me from getting to my PS5. But I had fun with it. But one of the things is like it's I don't want to say it's tedious, but it's one of those games that like you get into a mission, and when you've got Fog of War on the map, like you just don't know. Like, is this going to be a 15-minute thing for me to write this trailer to this farm, or like am I going to encounter like some bog where like it's impossible? Like I'm winching myself to move 2 inches to maneuver the truck in the terrain. I do love these games in the Spin Tire series, Snowrunner and Mud Runner. I think I haven't gotten into Expedition, but it is one of the vehicle sims that I enjoy a lot, and I had a great time with it with the wheel and pedals. But now I'm getting some other clobber with some other games, and so I'm probably gonna box it and get back to it later this week or at a later time, I hope. DBQ, your last man out on the game.
Yeah, my last game is an early access game from Devolver Digital. It came out in early access late in August this year. I remember playing a demo of this back in 2022, 23. This is Stick It to the Stickman. It's a run-based roguelike game in the kind of Stickman fight kind of, I don't know, genre, or like with those kind of trappings in terms of the kind of wonky physics of a Stickman fight game. But you are making your way up floors in a corporate building to battle the corporate boss. And if you beat the boss, you become the corporate boss and you start another run. As you go through, you earn money. You're adding on to floors. You unlock different characters that have, start with different abilities. Basically, you've got a series of attacks, whether they're kicks or punches, or depending on your character, the coffee lover throws coffee cups, and the kind of extrovert will sit and, one of the attacks is talking, where you can convert the guys attacking to you to be kind of neutral characters rather than aggression, enemies aggressing against you. And, you, as you go through, you get to different closets that have power-ups and kind of build up your abilities. And that was all kind of in the demo. Again, this is on sale right now for $4. It's $5 total. But one of the things they've added to it since the demo is there's the kind of city building aspects where you've got additional unlocks that you can do. You've got kind of a stock market that you're advancing in as you earn more and more money, or unlock additional floors and unlock kind of ongoing kind of static abilities where you can make more coffee pots, or which give you more health along the run, or additional things there. It's pretty simple, but it's also a whole lot of fun. I found myself kind of coming back to it. It's something where it's easy to pick up and play a run or two in 15-20 minutes, but it's also the combat is it's not the tight fluid combat of Marvel Cosmic Invasion. It's kind of wonky physics, but it's because of that wonky physics, there's a lot of fun in it. So it's very lighthearted. It's tongue in cheek. It's very kind of satire in terms of its corporate greed narrative. And stick it to the Stickman for $5. It's I've had a lot of fun with it and had some laughs along the way.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad you felt comfortable kind of expanding on that and kind of your experience in the game. I know a lot of times when we're running to get out of here, sometimes the last game out doesn't get enough room to breathe. But I was glad you went into detail on that one. Significant releases this week. So much riding on this release for EA. Battlefield 6 comes out this week on October 10th. Coming out for PC via both Steam, the EA app, and Epic, which I thought was pretty interesting. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S, so it is current console generation only. And man, EA has they've gone hard in the paint on this. Assembled the largest development team. A team that is on par with the size of the Call of Duty team, which had previously been the largest development team in the industry. They've placed big bets on this. It's really our first that we're going to really hear about the single player campaign, because other than that trailer that we saw for TGS, I think there really hasn't been a lot of information on what Criterion has been cooking for this. I don't remember that there's been any long gameplay,
no, I don't think we've gotten any type of breakdown in terms of what the end game looks like and other aspects to the campaign.
Yeah. So man, and they're going up against Call of Duty, and I gotta say, they're probably on their best footing that they've been in any year, between Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. When Call of Duty was particularly strong, but I feel like a not insignificant amount of tarnish has gone on the Call of Duty image and reputation over the last year. So it's probably a year that we're going to see these two closest right in the head-to-head battle going into this fall. So it'll be interesting. So I guess how you will get access to this via EA Play on Game Pass?
Yeah, but I'm going to pick it up anyways, because since I played the beta a month ago or so, whenever it was. But yeah, it was already a lock for me. I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to play it until probably later next week, because I'll be out next weekend.
Are you planning on picking up both Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty this fall?
Probably. There was actually a beta for Call of Duty, which I completely forgot about this weekend. I actually had access to it, but I think they might do another one. I think there's another beta for that too, but potentially, yeah, I'll get both.
Okay. And Soiltech, two other people came through the chat tonight that I meant to give shout out to. So Ghostface Killa and Soiltech, thanks so much for coming through, you guys. Anything else that we want to cover for tonight? Two other comments that I needed to make about the Xbox story, and yay, verily, I acknowledge that this may be unfair because I'm mentioning these two things which may have erupted into arguments, but I will allow us to table them for next week. I will say my two things was that during the acquisition, I said fewer suppliers on the market inevitably always lead to higher prices for buyers. In the acquisition, we took out of the top 10 earning publishers in the gaming space, we reduced that to 9. And I think we are seeing some of the ramifications of that now. Other economic conditions going on, certainly. But again, I firmly believe that, again, reducing total numbers of competitors on the market is going to yield things like this now. And we look at the record industry, cell phone providers, ISPs, other places where we have limited competition. And we have, now we have Xbox and PlayStation making over 50% of the total revenue that the PC and console gaming space makes. I think you're going to have things like this. And I think another thing that I'll knock on is, the claim that was made during the hearings was that Game Pass prices were not going to increase. Granted, as a result of the acquisition, but we know that statement was made during the trials with the indication that we weren't going to see significant increases in Game Pass prices on the tail side of the acquisition, and I think we are seeing those. That's where we are. Any toes in the door we want to stick on those comments? Yeah, I don't want to take advantage of me sitting in the host seat overly.
I think that is the host prerogative to end with a little bit of commentary, especially in a week like this where there's plenty to comment about.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So thanks a lot, everybody, for joining in. We really appreciate it. Again, specifically, as I put out on Twitter, we don't talk about rumor on the show, and we don't talk about leaks. Some of the other stuff that has been reported over this weekend or been mentioned this weekend in social media does constitute rumors and leaks, and so we're not going to discuss those. If and when those things come to fruition, then they will be actual news, and we'll talk about them then. So thanks so much for everybody for joining us tonight. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, play the games that you like, come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, here with my co-host DBQ Hams and Towmaster99. Next week, Towmaster will be in the host seat, and DBQ and I will be acting as co-hosts, backing him up. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.